This is video 402, Math 402. Today we're going to talk about addition and subtraction and money values. So the first thing we're going to talk about is just how to add. And if you have numbers to add together, we call those the add-ins, and the answer we would call the sum. So if you have 5 plus 3 equals, then 5 plus 3 equals 8. You would take your 5, you would add your 8 to it, 6, 7, 8, and that would be how you would come up with your sum. And the answer in an addition problem is called your sum. We went over that in the PowerPoint in the video 402. So that's how you add. Now, we need to learn to take this problem and write it, I guess you'd say vertically, where the numbers are on top of each other. So you want to make sure that you line the numbers up right on top of each other, because when we have double digits here in a little bit, it's going to be important that those numbers line up correctly. It'll make it easier for you. And you still add it, and the answer is still the same. Now, the reason it's important to know how to line them up correctly is if we have, say, 23 plus 34. Okay? Well, if I put my 23 here, and if I line it up, like this, that could get confusing. So it's real important that the numbers line up perfectly. So the numbers that are in the ones place, this would be the ones place, would be your 3. And this is the one place where they line up directly on top and underneath each other. And then the numbers in your tens place would line up. That way, when you start to add them together, you just add straight down. So 4 plus 3 is 7, and 5 plus 2 is 7. So that would be your sum of these two numbers. Okay? So that's addition. Now, you can have more than just two numbers. You can have some large numbers in addition. In that first video, we talked about thousands and the thousands place. Well, let's just say if we have 330,425. Okay? So that would be, our ones place, our tens place, and our hundreds place, and then we get into our thousands places here, which we want to make sure those all line up. And then we could just have a small number that we want to add to that. Maybe we want to add 500 to that. So I would just, 500 would be 500. This would be your ones place, your tens place, and your hundreds place. So you would want to make sure they line up perfectly underneath there. So when you add these together, these would all be understood to be zeros underneath here. 500 is your number. There's no, you could put zeros here, but they really mean nothing. You don't need to put those there. So it'd just be confusing. So then we just add 5 plus 0 is 5, 2 plus 0 is 2, 4 plus 5 is 9, and then these all plus 0, 0 plus 0 is 0, just bring those down, and then put your comma in the right place so it's easier to read that number, 330,925. All right, so you can have more than two add-ins. You could have more than that. You could have 30, 45, 20, 15. You could have numbers like that, as many add-ins as you want, and you still just add them. You start here, 0 plus 5 is 5, 0 plus 5 more is 10. Now, you put a 0 for the 10, we'll review this in a minute, and you carry the 1. 3 plus 4, 3 plus 1 is 4, plus the 4 is 8, 5, 8, 9, 10, 11. So let's go over that carrying the 1, just in case you haven't experienced that before. So if you have a number, let's just say we have 12 plus 9. Well, 9 plus 2 is 11. We can't just put an 11 down here. So what we do is we put whatever number's in the ones place. So 9 plus 2 over here is an 11. So we take the number that's in the ones place and we put it down here, and we carry the number that's in the tens place. We call carrying it. We carry it over here. We put it up there, and then we can just add those two together, and that's 21. And of course, you can add with your fingers, or 12, and you count up 9 more, and you're going to get to 21. But that's the tens place, because you're taking the number that would be in the tens place of this number, and you're moving it to the tens place here, because that one's in the tens place. That's just called carrying. So let's do one more of those to make sure you understand that. 14 plus 7, let's do a little bigger number than that. Let's do 143 plus 78. Now, we'll put our addition sign here. We're going to add these two add-ins together to get a sum, to get our answer. 8 plus 3, 8, 9, 10, 11. Well, remember, we can't put two digits here. We can only put one. That's an 11. So we're going to put our 1, which is in the ones place, and we're going to carry the one that's in the tens place up here. So then we're just going to add this to the numbers that are already here, lined up in this column. So 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 7 plus 4 is 11, and then you add the 1 to that. That makes it 12. So 7 plus 4 plus 1 is 12. Well, if you take a 12, the number that's in the ones place, we're going to leave here. The number that's in the tens place is a 1. We're going to carry the 1 right there, and 1 plus 1 is 2. So the answer for that problem will be 221. So you'll have a lot of practice with addition problems. Hopefully that's pretty easy for you. These videos cover material that you'll be working on usually for about a week. So if you want to pause the video here and work on some of your addition problem assignments now, you can do that, or you can continue to watch this and do the next set of problems. We're going to work on subtraction problems next. So for subtraction, we're going to line everything up the same way we did with addition. So let's just take 9 minus 3 equals. Well, you can probably do that in your head, or you can probably, on your fingers, you can figure that out. 9 minus 3 would be 6. But we need to learn to line that up just like we did the addition problems. So I'm going to take a 9, I'm going to put the 3 directly under it, and instead of an addition sign now, we've got a subtraction sign. Okay, and what we're finding here really is the difference between these two numbers. That's what subtraction is. It's finding the difference. So the difference between these two numbers. So if you take 9 and you subtract 3 from 9, you end up with 6. Okay, and here again, we can do larger numbers with this also. To get 0 there. Okay, so so we got 641 minus 320 here. Put our subtraction sign, making sure everything's lined up directly and under each other. If it's make sure that our tens places are lined up right. So you subtract 1, subtract 0 is 1, 4 subtract 2 is 2, and 6 subtract 3 is 3. So our answer will be 321. Now, this is a little different than addition. In addition, remember I told you could have as many add-ins as you wanted. You could have all kinds of numbers here and add together. You can't do that with subtraction. You're just going to have one number subtracting one other number. And then if you wanted to subtract another number, you'd have to find that answer first and then. So you can't have a line of subtraction. Now, it's important too that we line these numbers up. So 2,421, say if I just wanted to subtract 301 from that. Okay, so I bring this down 2,421, and now you're going to see why it's so important that everything lines up right underneath everything. If I subtract 301, say if I put that right here, well, that would be incorrect. That would give you a bad answer. uh, the 1 is in the tens place. I mean, excuse me, the 1 is down here is in the 10, would be in the tens place, and it should be in the ones place. So we need to make sure that the 1 is in the ones place. This 0 needs to be in the tens place right underneath this one, and this 3 needs to be in the hundreds place right underneath where that hundreds place is. It's got to line up perfectly for you to subtract it and come up with the correct answer. 1 subtract 1 is 0, 2 subtract 0 is 2, 4 subtract 3 is 1, and 2, and there's nothing here, so it's understood to be a 0. So 2 subtract 0, or just bring the 2 down. And then remember your commas, in the right places, so you can keep everything lined up right. So now let's talk about borrowing in subtraction. This is the most confusing part of the subtraction. If you can get this, you shouldn't have any trouble subtracting. What if we have 22 and we want to subtract 15 from that? Well, so you've got 2 subtract 5. Well, 5 is bigger than 2. So you cannot subtract 5 from 2 without getting a negative number, which is something we'll deal with later on in math. So for now, we just want to figure out how can we subtract this problem. And you can borrow from this. This is the tens place, and this is the ones place. So if this is a 2, and I want to add 10 to that 2, I can do so by putting a little 1 in front of it, and that makes that a 12. But where did I get those 10 to add to that 2? I took it from here, and I'm going to make that 2 a 1 now. So that's called borrowing. You can borrow from the tens place and put it in the ones place. You borrowed 10 from here, and you put it here. And the way you did that is you put the 1 there, made that 2 a 12. 2 plus 10 equals 12. So that's what we have now. Where did that 10 come from? That 10 came from the tens place. Here we originally had 22. Now really we just have 12, 1 and 2, if you count it that way. But we got that there. So anyway, it's kind of confusing to think about, but that's why it works. You've borrowed 10 from the tens place and you put it in the ones place, and that made that a 12 and made that a 1. So now we can take 12 subtract 5. We can do that. 12 subtract 5 is 7. And then we got 1 subtract 1 is 0. So 22 subtract 15 is 7. Or you can say the difference between 22 and 15 is 7. Okay? Now, you can check that by adding this 7 to the 15 and see if you get 22. If I take 0, 7, which is my answer, and 15, and I add it, then that's going to give me 22. 7 plus 5 is 12. I put my 2, I carry the 1. 1 plus 1 is 2, 22. So that's how you can check to see if your subtraction problem is right. If your answer plus what you subtracted equals the top number, then that way you've got, you're doing it correctly. So let's do a couple more problems like that. So let's do 14 subtract 8. 4 subtract 8, you can't really do that. So you could just look at that and think, well, 14 subtract 8, you can automatically do that because that's what you're going to end up doing. When you borrow here, this is a good way to understand borrowing. You're borrowing from this 1, you're putting it right here, which makes that 14, and you borrowed from that, you took 0. So that's kind of explains borrowing a little bit also, so you can understand it. If I have 15 and I want to subtract 6, well, I can't subtract 6 from the 5, but I can subtract 6 from the 15. So I can just do that, or I can look at it as if, I'm going to subtract from the 15 and make that a 0. That's a real easy example, but that's where you can understand the borrowing, so when you get to a bigger problem, you would understand the borrowing a little better. So let's take 26 and let's subtract 19. 19 from 26. Okay? Well, we can't take 9 away from 6, so we borrow. We make that a 16. But where did we get that from? We got it from here. We make that a 1. Okay? And then 16 subtract 9. Now we can do that. 16 subtract 9 is 7. And 1 subtract 1 is at 0. Okay? If I wanted to check it, I could take this number and add them together. The 19 plus the 7, and 7 plus 9 is 16. I put my 6, I carry my 1, and 1 plus 1 is 2, 26. And since that equals that, then that means I've done it correctly. So that is subtraction. Now, I said we're going over money values. What if I said I want us to add a quarter plus a dime? Well, hopefully you know now that a quarter is 25 cents and a dime is 10 cents. So we would add 25 plus 10, and that would equal 35 cents. Now later we'll learn to convert these to some decimals, but for now we can say a quarter is 25 cents, a dime is 10 cents, that equals 35 cents. So if you're in a store, a practical reason for knowing how to do this, if you're in a store and you want to buy a piece of candy, and the candy is, let's say the candy is 75 cents. That's what the candy is going to cost. So if you look and you have, that's what we need to get. If you've got 2 quarters, let's put a Q for quarters. If you've got 2 quarters and you've got 3 dimes, we've got to figure out, do you have enough money to buy that candy? And we'll just not worry about tax right now. We'll assume that it's 75 cents with the tax. We won't worry about tax. So 2 quarters, a quarter's 25 cents. Okay, and you've got 2 of those, so you've got 2 25s. And a dime is 10 cents. So you've got 3 dimes, 1, 2, 3. So there's our 3 dimes and our 2 quarters. We can add these together and find out if we've got enough to purchase our candy for 75 cents. 5 plus 5 is 10. We put our 0. We carry the 1. 1 plus 2 plus 2 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1. What does that equal? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Equals 8. So it equals 80 cents. So the amount of money that you have right here is 80 cents. So yes, you have enough money to buy that. Well, let's go a step further with this, and let's say if you buy that candy with your money, how much money will you have left? Well, if you've got 80 cents and the candy costs 75 cents, and you want to find out how much you'll have left, you're going to have to subtract. So you take your 80 cents that you have and you subtract the 75 cents that you have to give to the store clerk, and then you can figure out how much money you have left. Well, 0 subtract 5, you can't do that. So we have to borrow. So we're going to put a 1 here. So now we've got 10. Where did we get that from? Right here. So now 10 subtract 5 is 5. 7 subtract 7 is 0. So you're going to have 5 cents left after you purchase your candy bar. So that is addition and subtraction and a little bit of review on money. And so you'll have some assignments to work on that. And if you have any questions, you can always give us a call.